All right, we are top of the hour, so I am going to go because we have packed the agenda, and we want to ensure that we have time for the breakout rooms because that's where the good stuff happens. So, just a quick introduction. The event today, I'm going to start sharing my screen right away. The event today is shaping the future of healthcare. And you know what? I'm going to stop and just make sure that I'm sharing correctly because there is a video yeah, good, that we're going to play. I want to make sure you can hear it. So, the event today, Shaping the Future of Healthcare, what does HRC offer you? This is coming in after a series of workshops that we did in July and August, where we actually gathered individuals, ruckus makers, as we call them, to join us in 2-hour workshops to help us to listen to what your pain points are and how HRC can serve you best. We wanted to do that to ensure that the offering, what we're doing as we conclude this year, 2024, and step into 2025, that we are offering what is going to serve your needs. And just a real quick, who is the we? You've got quite a few of them on the call here with you today. So Lonnie and Dawn, Keely, Michael, and Alinda are here, as well as myself, Denise. We're missing Paul, but we've got a little snippet of a video that will bring his voice in on this as well. So we're going to step right in. Go ahead as we go. I'm going to fly through some information. And so if you have questions, feel free to add them into the chat. Lonnie's going to monitor that. He'll try to answer those questions in the chat if they're capable of being answered in that way. If any of them bubble up and he thinks we need to address them before we go into the breakout room, he'll let us know and we'll do that. So the agenda today, we did the welcome and introduction, and I am flying. It was less than 5 minutes. I'm on track. We're going to share. So quickly, we're going to share what we heard and then what we, the members of HRC, came together at our retreat on August 10th to define as what we're going to offer. What are we going to be able to do to help meet those needs in 2024 and then step into in 2025? So we're going to share with you the results of the empathy map, and then we're going to talk about the framework that we're building upon, and then what we heard in regards to those offerings and what we're going to offer. So we're going to go through that really fast. I shared a link to the mirror board in the email that I sent, and I'm going to share that right now in the chat as well. What that is going to do is enable you to come out here. I'm not going to pause, and now I'm trying to find chat. I'm not going to pause and instruct on how to use Miro. So you can come out here. Hopefully you can find your way around, but you can be out here and exploring it while we're going through items. But this will enable you. There's a lot that we're not going to speak to on the different frames, but you can go and look and see the greater depth. We also sent that in the summary report. So you had that via email as well. We're going to then go into breakout rooms, and it's going to 20-minute long breakout room. We're hoping to have 4 to 6 people in each room and really allow you to share what you heard, what your reactions were, and we'll give you a prompting question. Then we'll come back and spend 15 minutes where the groups can share what they talked about, so we can have that full group debrief and exploration. And then, of course, we'll have a closing. As we close, we're going to share with you a little bit about that impact network map that we've been creating, the minimally viable product. And then, if you can stay with us, we're going to stay for the additional half hour and have collaborative conversations. Again, these are breakout rooms where you actually get time to meet others that are in this event with you. All right, so here we go. I'm going to talk really fast. I'm sorry. You'll get the recording. You can slow it down if you need it to be slowed down. So let me move this to presentation mode because that makes this a little bit bigger, and hopefully that's a little bit easier to see. And just let me move a couple things off my other screen before I start. So this first frame, the first activity we did in the workshops was to do an empathy map. Oh, I'm sorry, something popped up on my screen and it got my attention. So the first thing with that empathy map, there was a section to do pain points and a section to do goals. These were pain points that we heard. And so we heard quite a few pain points that were personal to the different individuals working within healthcare or who were patients seeking, of course, care from our current system. We also heard pain points that are more of the system items. And I know David Dibble's on this call, so I know that gets his ears going. But you can explore these and see the different buckets. So we went through and categorized these. The goals that we also there heard personal, individuals who are really wanting to find their purpose, their place in the healthcare system, or to adjust the system of care either that they're working within or they're receiving from. But then we also heard process items or system related items in the goals. The empathy map then goes into 4 different categories. We ask, what are ruckus makers saying? And so that's what we heard here. What are they saying? What we heard a lot of is that the system is broken. This was an echo across all 4 workshops. But then we also heard specific items that were coming up, as well as a strong call for a need of change and for that to be a change that is unified. The next piece of the empathy map asked about what are they thinking? And so ruckus makers, what are you thinking? And here's what we were hearing. We heard a lot about how do we collaborate? And a lot of this came from the fact that many who joined us are solopreneurs or consulting. They feel like they're on their own. And how can we unite in this effort? And what I appreciated as we looked at what we were thinking as ruckus makers, there were also individuals who called out that there is hope. They're seeing some hope begin to bubble up. And that was really promising. The next item here, and there was a lot here, this was what are they doing? So what are ruckus makers doing? And there's a lot. We had some individuals who identified specific areas or efforts that are coming up, like Aledade and ChenMed and NUCA up in Alaska. We heard actions such as those that people are doing around their own personal care. We heard about training. So these are things that these ruckus makers are doing, both personally in their actions and offerings and what they're seeing others doing. And then the final one in the empathy map is, what are ruckus makers feeling? And there were some heavy words here. And I would guess that many on this call with us resonate with a lot of these words, like overwhelmed, frustration and anger, desire for change. And what I did appreciate, though, there was a lot of heavy words. There was hope and there was determination that we can do something. So there was some light in this as well. And so we took those words and created a word cloud. The green words are words that were the positive, the optimistic. The reddish words were those that were on the other side, of course, and the bigger the word, the more often that word or that feeling resonated across what was shared. So that was the empathy map. And again, I am flying here to give us time for breakouts. So what we're going to go to next is we're going to talk a little bit, just really quickly, about what HRC seeks to do. And hopefully you've been to enough of our gatherings that you know that we're modeling after 2 loops. And the idea of 2 loops, I'm not going to go into a lot of depth. I'll send a video that gives a better definition of this. But really, it's about 2 systems. It's about the current system that has peaked and is falling. It is starting to fail. And in the process, people are falling out of the system. We have the system that needs to or will lift up and replace it. But right now, it's not there. So we're in the development phase of just bringing those who are falling out of healthcare together. And we call these people with some real positive inference to it, ruckus makers. And we're seeking to connect the ruckus makers. And together, as we bring ruckus makers together, creating the ability to nourish their efforts, to bring them together in communities of practice, cohorts, or innovation labs, so that they can come together and ideate, design, and start to test change. And as that change is lifted up, we want to illuminate it. And in many instances, there's already actions that can be illuminated. So we're already stepping into this. The other thing we're doing around this element of connection is we're building across an impact network. Now you have the link to the mirror board so you can make this bigger so you can look at each of these. But in what we're really looking at here is currently we've got disjointed individuals or individuals with some connection, but they're doing their own efforts. They're trying on their own to improve healthcare, or they have a little bit of a collaborative engagement. What we're seeking to do initially as HRC is to be the hub that starts to connect all of these, so create these spokes. But we are structured around impact networks, and impact networks do not retain a hub and spoke model. This gets us started, and what we're going to encourage is the development of networks of networks. So HRC will be the provider of connection and the conduit to the efforts that each of these different developing networks will do themselves. What the final piece here is a really woven network means that there is strong connection across all efforts. There are, as we like to speak to it and we hear others speak to it, there are wide and deep bridges between networks. So individuals and organizations know each other really well and have strong relationships. When you go to the book Impact Networks, which we strongly advise people to read, but you don't have to read it. You can join us for the upcoming book clubs, which I'll send you links to. We're going to go through that book, and we even have the author, David Ehrlichman, joining us for the third and final session on November 13th. But we call this our Bible. The book is so good about talking about the creation of an impact network and what it means. And an impact network is a combination of a vibrant community and healthy organization. So it's got some structure to it, but it really is seeking to be a low hierarchy community. And at the core, being relational. That's absolutely important. And that their trust is strong. They're also creative. So what we want to do is embrace and encourage innovation, new ideas, and gatherings of individuals around that idea to actually design and start to pilot. And so around the community space is that shared principles and resilience and self-organization. So we're not going to be forcing organization. We're going to be encouraging and enhancing the connectedness that enables that. And then we're really focused on creating a culture of trust. We will, of course, also have some organizational component to this. So we'll provide the backbone, the tools to enable that. And we're very much biased towards action. One of the things that prompted our efforts was there's a lot of talk about what's going on and what's not good in healthcare. We want to see more action to encourage it and then to illuminate the action that is coming forward. And so impact networks increase flow of information. They decrease waste. So when multiple people are trying to do the same things on their own, there's a lot of wasted energy. How can we come together? And then align strategies, liberate the energy. So put that energy towards action and enable innovation. So we stepped into the next phase of the workshops by sharing that information and then asked the group to give us ideas about what we, HRC, can do in the areas of naming, connecting, nourishing, and illuminating. And so this is what we heard. I'm going to fly through this because I'm looking at the clock and it goes faster than I can talk. So we heard buckets of feedback. So there was essential elements around connection and networking. So of course that aligns with what we're doing within our structure. We are seeking to create connection and network. There's support and nourish. So how can we help to support the efforts? And we heard a resonance of creating a sense of belonging, that individuals feel very isolated in their efforts and they get burned out in those efforts. And how do we create a sense of belonging and that people can find those that can help them support the effort and move it forward? Celebrating and recognizing, that's illuminating. How do we identify the good work that is happening? And there are pieces that we're already doing that I'll show you in a second. And then collaboration and ideation. So that would be coming together in communities of practice or cohorts. Advocacy and influence. This one, we do feel that as an impact network, part of what we'll be doing or enabling is that grassroots movement. And visibility and communication. So how do we make all of this very visible? And there was quite a bit of desire for storytelling, making sure that the stories can be told, found easily. And then, of course, innovation and development. So along what we heard, we then came together in our August 10th retreat to define what our offerings would be. And one of the things that really resonated as we were talking, and I think it was Keely who coined this, she said, we supercharge collaboration to help the innovators and change agents accelerate the reinvention of healthcare. And you've probably heard me say it before, HRC is not going to reinvent healthcare. We are going to supercharge the collaboration and enable you to reinvent healthcare. That's our purpose. So Paul couldn't be here today, but he gave us a little snippet, so I'm going to play this really quickly.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not going to be there, so I'll just leave these words for the occasion for Wednesday. Horizontal,
Yes.
non-hierarchical,
Yes.
fractal, and you've never been in an organization anything like this before.
And so if you've heard Paul talk before, he talks about each of those, and I'll share some of that information when I send out the summary from this event. He really wished he could be here, and there's really good content that he shared there in just a few words that I don't have time, unfortunately, to dive further in, but we're happy to do so at another time. So, with that conversation, what we ideated around what we could do based on what was given to us from the workshops, and what we then did was voted. What can we? Because we have to be cognizant of our capacity as well. So, what can we do that most meets those needs? And here's what we came up with. For the rest of 2024, we are forming as a social purpose corporation. I can send you information about that. It's a hybrid between a LLC and a nonprofit. And we ward between what route to go here. What we love about Social Purpose Corporation, it is a for-profit, which gives us the ability to be flexible in the manner that we really think we need to be. We're doing something very different than anybody has done before. And with a social purpose corporation, we can clearly articulate that our purpose is as important, if not more important, than profit. We are not profits over people. We are purpose driven. The next thing, events. We've been doing events such as this one all year long, but we're really leaning into events such as those workshops. How can we start to bring groups together around the ideation? So, having those conversations in workshop format where ideas can truly bubble up and we can go to that next step of action. And so, more to come about events and how that will change. We've got a group forming on that, I think, later this afternoon. The community platform. If you're not yet a member of HRC, because you're here today, you will receive a link to join us. We are developing on a community platform. That platform gives us that safe space to connect. You know that those who are on the platform are members of HRC. It also gives us that space to share information. And the other thing that we're using it for is we are creating space for subgroups to join us. So networks of networks. The other thing, illuminate ruckus makers. I'm going to share really quickly here that we have started this on our website. If you go to Shine a Light, you'll see a couple different ways we're illuminating. We are finding LinkedIn posts and we are sharing them out here. So you can pick on somebody's name here. I'll go to Bruce, and you can see their posts that we've been featuring out here. And when you go to engage with it, it will bring you to, I don't know why that one isn't. Of course, it's not going to do it when there we go. It'll bring it to that post on LinkedIn so you can engage there, because that's how we help those change makers, is by shining a light and engaging on that platform with their content. But then we've also brought individuals in and they have their own page out here. So if I go to Dawn, when we click on Dawn, you'll see that we bring you to her LinkedIn page. If you go to Deborah, it's going to bring you to some content that she shared with us. So there's short videos, her website, LinkedIn, and featured posts. So we're doing little bits of shining light right now, and we're going to lean into that more. And then in 2025, we're focusing on visualization of the network. The very end of this event today, I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like, our current minimally viable product. And then we're going to lean into cohorts. So when the events, the workshops start to identify elements that we can lean into and take action on, we'll be able to have cohorts that really dive in and work on that. And then we're going to enable connection and relationship. And we've got a couple of things that we're working on there. And I'm trying to go really fast because what we want to be able to do is get you into breakout rooms. So the next step is we are going to move into breakout rooms, and we're going to give you I'm looking at the clock, about 16 minutes, because I ran longer than I thought. But what we would love to hear, and I'll put this in the chat, is your reactions to what was shared and to address these questions. So, how does our proposed offerings align with your current needs? You may not have been part of those workshops. You may have other ideas around our framework that we should consider. And we're curious, did we get it right? And is there anything you would add or change? So, what we want to do, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you. What we want to do is be able to put you into breakout rooms. We are going to, yeah, there's 41 people here. That's fantastic. So, we're going to create probably about 10 breakout rooms, and you're going to have time to discuss what we just shared. I knew I'd see numbers drop. Breakout rooms scare some people. I'm sorry for that. But we're going to let you discuss what we just shared. And let me put in the chat what you're going to focus on. because once I put you in the breakout rooms, I can't chat with you. So there's the chat. And Dawn, I'm going to toss it to you while I create breakout rooms. If you can kind of orient them to the structure of the breakout rooms.
Absolutely. Thanks, Denise. As you heard from Denise, we're really working hard to create this culture of trust. And, it's all about relationships. So as you go into your breakout rooms, one of the phrases that I think is helpful is to say, listen with attention. So listen really to understand other people when they're speaking and speak with intention, speak to the point, be aware of the voice equity that's happening in the room. One of the things that we know is some people have a need for less time between speakers, so they're more likely to jump in sooner than other people who need a little more space between speakers. So be aware of that and try to work towards that voice equity. So when you get into the rooms, just introduce yourself briefly. Appoint a recorder, so someone who will enter the results or the kind of summary of the conversation that you do have into the chat when we come back together. And just think about the question. The question is meant to spur conversation. If you get off a little bit, that's what happens. But remember, try to come back with, say, 2 or 3 sentences to summarize the conversation.
All right. We have rooms. So we did lose a few people. I'm just going to move. We've got one room of 3. I'm going to give you somebody else. So just a second. All right. So it looks like everybody is in rooms of 4 with one room of 5. That's fantastic. You're going to see the timer says 14 minutes. When 14 minutes finishes, it's going to give you the 60-second marker. Don't resist the urge to hit that blue button. Ignore it. Let the 60 seconds go to give you a total of 15 minutes, and then you'll join back into the main room. We'll see you soon. I know it is never enough time. However, we gave you a good chunk. So I hope the conversation was really rich. And just to let you know, you do automatically get muted again when you come into this room. But what we would like to do is, of course, we've got 15 minutes for open share. And I would love if you had somebody who was identified as your recorder, you can drop into the chat would be great. And I welcome you to go ahead and raise your hand and let's hear from you. I'd love to hear some vocalization of what was discussed, and maybe that will get some other conversation. Marlene, thank you. I see your hands up.
Yeah, great. And I just put our team's feedback into the chat there. Yeah, so we felt that the work is aligned. It focuses on the need for community. It seems a lot like the Just Culture structure, which is great. That community focus, and it looks right. And everybody liked being part of the solution and being action oriented. So that was it. When we talked about what's missing, what needs to be added, it's important to add the focus on the caregiver. Now, not the health care caregiver, not the but the family member or whoever's caring for the patient. That piece, it's so broken. And okay. The other part is for health professionals in general, nurses, doctors, ultrasound techs, everyone. The issue of recruitment and retention, we know that there's a bottleneck in the amount of schools, the number of trainers. So we need to focus on opening up that bottleneck because there's a lot of willing people out there to join the profession. To do that. Our team said we also need, as we look through at these solutions, that we should use holistic human factors approaches and strategies to address the issue. And that essentially this supports the strong need. We need to continue that focus on communication, collaboration, and coordination. So
thank you, Marlene. One thing that came to mind when you talked about the schools is how might we also re-engage those who have fallen out of healthcare and perhaps left healthcare? Wonder if there's an opportunity there as well. Virgil, I see your hands up.
Yeah, just a report out from Group 8, let's put it that way. It out there. I think there was a lot relative to talking about actions and amplification, that a lot of times data is collected, but there really is no action that is taken as a result of that. And also a need to amplify people, their thoughts, experience, and ideas, to get them out there so others kind of like-mindedness can hear that same information and kind of join together in that type of cohort or group. Of course, there needs to be probably a leader of that's kind of inspiring and challenging and just get out there to lead that group to kind of get it going. I think a number of us might have walked into this collaboration thinking this is where we're going to start reinventing healthcare. But it was more of a realization that HRC is here to help to join us all together form those like-minded individuals, and then provide support or learn from us how to provide that support. So we thought it was really important in terms of like-minded purpose, but making sure there's some diversification, that each of the people are accepting of everyone's comments. And again, back to the cohorts, and as we said, supercharging those efforts so that the real work could get done in those cohorts.
Love that, Virgil. And you're right. One of the things that we talk about a lot is diversification. So our next event coming up is on how do we get more diversity? So I love that.
Thank you.
Rosanna, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'll have a report out from our group. The group felt very much that that HRC is on the right track right now. It's a good place to bring together a lot of disparate voices, to be that hub. And in terms of what's not working, there wasn't anything particularly identified right now, and no particular criticism of the framework, because nothing can be perfect coming out the gate. But indeed, we felt that, like, in terms of modeling user experience and voice of the customer, this is a really good example of that. HRC has done an excellent job of being able to take in everyone's voice and then validating those results today. And so I feel like you're off to a really good start in terms of meeting what people need. But we won't really know until we're in action. And you put it on the nose where you said let's have action. So one of the concerns that came up, a red flag, not so much criticism at all, or something that's not working, is the potentiality, of course, to not be naive, because as Jerry very aptly put, much of why this exists is because of all the solutions that have been tried before. All the fixed healthcare solutions that have been in place have left it in this state. And so clearly making sure that, not all impact is positive. So making an impact, but making sure that impact is positive, because the impacts of these other fixes have left us in this mess. And so I just thought that was, a really good, just practical, pragmatic, rational. Let's really be on the lookout for that red flag. And scalability. We're talking about a lot of people involved in healthcare. I think the statistic was 1 in 6 that was mentioned in our group. So it's like, how do you scale these entrepreneurial solopreneur efforts into something that really is scalable? So a couple of just things to be thinking about that aren't directly like what's not working, but things that, that we need to shape our future direction.
That's perfect, Rosanna. And that's one of the things that we're very aware of as we create the impact network, we want to be emergent, so that we're letting what needs to emerge, and being very open to listening constantly to those that are with us in this effort. I love that. Thank you. David, I see your hands up.
Yes, hi. We were the 5-person group, and we feel honored. There was a lot of reiteration of the frustrations, almost preaching to the choir sort of thing. I think everybody's really aligned with the same frustrations. And the group felt that this is a great initiative. It all starts with conversation, and the thought was perhaps getting a better sense of the composition of the group. So you spoke about diversification, but understanding, do we have all the players that we need? So we've got providers, we have advocates. Do we have potential stop-loss employers that are trying to change the way healthcare policies are executed? Do we have representative technology that can help bring more efficiency to the practice? So that's really the only thing that we got to, was figuring out what the composition is and whether or not we have to target specific groups of people to bring into the mix.
I love that, David. I feel like the conversation there was likely really rich, and we would definitely love to hear a little bit more about that. Love it. Irene, I see your hands up.
I was with group 1, and it was Don Ellison, Michael Six, and Victor Guajardo. We are all from different backgrounds and pathways. I mean, we've got some connections, mutual connections of ideas and thoughts in healthcare, but we come from different places where we can all contribute. We all appreciated the detailed summary. It was very helpful to learn what had been discussed, and we're all excited to collaborate to supercharge the connections that are going to be formed and break down barriers.
Oh, that's awesome, Irene. Thank you. Michael, I see your hands up.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. We represented group 7. There were 3 of us, and a lot of the same comments were echoed here, so I won't repeat those there. One of the insightful comments that came up in our conversation, though more a caution than anything, is as the organization scales, perhaps, and there's a lot of individual, I think of sort of molecules bouncing around, an open space, that you're harnessing that energy towards common goals. And I think we would probably agree there isn't a single goal. I mean, reinventing healthcare could be a single goal, but that's boiling the ocean, right? So within that, making sure that the energy, the collective energy of the groups and the subgroups are harnessed in a way that it's you're rowing in the same direction. You're moving towards a common goal. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of little people, a bunch of high energy little molecules bouncing around, off of each other, which can feel great and be fun, but you're not actually advancing forward, right? So just being sure we're harnessing that energy in a structured way was the feedback.
Michael, I love that piece because one of the unshared was when we talk about the visualization, it's, if you think about systems thinking and you've got the dancers on the dance floor and the balcony up above, the ability from the balcony to see all that's happening and be able to go down on the dance floor and do actions. And so I won't take too much time here, but I often talk about what often happens in our systems is we actually have a break dancer down there on the dance floor that's pushing people away and sucking energy out of the movement and actually causing perhaps unintended problems that are affecting a big group. We have a root cause problem. From the balcony, we can see that break dancer. On the dance floor, we may not be able to. And when we go up to the balcony, we can then say, oh, there's a root cause that's harming all of us. Let's go see what we can do to figure out what that break dancer is doing and maybe tone that down a little bit or do whatever we need to do with it. But yes, that's part of what we need to be able to do as well. Give the big picture and how do those little pieces fit in?
Didn't think we'd be talking about breakdancing today, but I'm glad you brought it in.
Well, it's now part of the Olympics, so, Kim, I see your hands up.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say something quickly to give Hamas a shout out. If you can all see him, he's joining us from Ghana, and he was having some internet issues. But the lengths he went to join us, and as I've spoken with physicians around the world, these issues are ubiquitous. It's not unique just to America, and we can all support and learn from each other. So just a shout out.
I think that's awesome. In a moment, I'm going to show you our impact map, and it has a geo feature. So it shows where people are physically located. And we have somebody on that map that's in Ireland. So I love that we have a representation that is global. We are focusing local on the US primarily in the beginning, but we're very much aware that these efforts are not just problems within the US. So we've got just about another minute, and then I'm going to close us up, and then we'll move to collaborative conversation. So if there's any more shares, Daniel.
Thank you. I was in a small group, also just 3, and Ian was in our group, and unfortunately his microphone did not work. So he expressed his thoughts in the chat, and he recommended adding an offline experiential learning component, such as conversation guests or befriend guests, where you could reach out to someone at work or other, to kind of invite them to be involved. So that was his recommendation. I did want to comment. The 2 people I was with were both more on the patient side. I am a physician, and then in addition to being a physician, I've worked for the last 3.5 years within utilization management, which is, the most hated part of the healthcare industry. And so I definitely have, an interesting experience with that. And one of the comments that was made was making sure that we have all of the right contributors involved in the conversation. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that obviously the patients and the physicians need to be involved, but also the employers. I think that, there's a group I know of that's called Rosetta Health, that Dave Chase runs that program, and it's an alternative to the traditional insurance companies like United Healthcare. They're community-owned health plans. And I think that when we start reinventing or reimagining or restoring, I think of more as a 3rd-generation physician, restoring healthcare, restoring physician autonomy, restoring physician ownership and leadership, things like that. That's the perspective, that I have. And I think when we start thinking about that, we really need to make sure that we bring in all of those important, contributors as mentioned. And I think, making sure that, the payer, the person that's actually paying for the really needs to be involved, as much as maybe we don't want them. They should be involved in the decision-making. They have to be, and we have to think about that. So,
yeah. I love that. That's a perfect way to end the share. Thank you so much. If anybody didn't get to participate, but you want to add into the chat, I'll make sure that goes out with a summary. What we're going to do now is just a quick close up, and there's a couple things that I want to do. The first is, of course, to thank you for joining us today and for in those breakout rooms. You know, we always lose a few people when I say breakout rooms, but the majority engaged in that, and I think that's fantastic. And your shared insights very much welcomed as we step into this work. I also wanted to share that we do have future events coming up, and I do hope that you'll join those. In the summary email that I send out, you'll have links to all of those, but you can find those on our website. If you're a member of HRC already, you can find that within the digital space. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can find that from our business page. So there are a variety of ways to find it so that you can join us for our next events, and we have quite a few coming up. I now want to share with you the minimally viable product map that we've been creating to give you a little bit of an idea of what we seek to create in order to share the awareness of who's connected with us. And so I'm going to share my screen. It's going to be a very quick overview. So I'm going to show you two different views from the map. If you're on the map, you have the ability to come out here and play with all of these different views and to give insight or feedback on what you're experiencing. But this view is called the geo view, and it shows if somebody has given us their zip code, their postal code, it shows us where they reside on the map. And so you'll see we've got clusters of people out here. The nice thing is you may not be aware that you're close to another ruckus maker, and now you have the opportunity to see them, identify that, and reach out to them. I did also want to share, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I told you we had somebody in Ireland who is joining us. So Emma is out there in Ireland, and you will see on the map a bunch of people are swimming out here in the ocean together. That's because we don't have their postal code yet. So you automatically get dumped out there. So if you're not seeing yourself on the geo map, you're probably out here swimming. I hope you're having a good time. The other view is the people and connections. So right now on your view, it looks like a lot of dots. I'm going to focus in just a moment, but each dot represents a person. And you can see that some of these have their profile pictures and others do not yet. With this view, what you'll see, all of these individuals are members of HRC. You as a participant, if you're not already a member, you will get a link to come in here with us and a link to this map so you can update your profile. But I'm going to show you really quick. I'm going to click on my picture, and so you'll see my bio information, what I filled out from the profile information. And if I focus in on myself, then you'll see all of these individuals that I've said I'm connected with. And each of the different colors gives you a different strength of connection. If you click down here, you'll be able to see the different strengths. And so collaborator is green, acquaintance is a really light gray. But what I want to show you here, I'm not going to go into too much depth, but I'm going to go one level out, and I'm going to share with you that now you see people I'm connected with and their connections. And what's the value here? Here's a piece, just one portion of value. I can see that Kirsten is connected with me and she's connected with nobody else out here. I know Kirsten, and I know there'd be great value in her connecting with Mindy. This enables me to say, oh boy, I should send a connection request to those two, and the why behind that. Because Mindy has a really good network. She's come out here and she's identified, but Kirsten hasn't yet. And I think Kirsten could really value from the connections that one she'll make with Mindy, and two that she might make with Mindy's network. And so this is just part of that visualization that we're doing. There's a lot more out here. You'll have the link. You can come out here and play with it. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're hoping to do. Virgil, I see your hand went up and you're on mute.
So I apologize. This is not relative to the HRC account, personal settings and such like this. This is something separate. Is that right? Is that correct?
This is separate at this stage. You'll have a link. It's all connected to your login information. So the same login that you use to get into the community platform is the same login to get into the map.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, so we're at the top of the hour. I am happy to answer more questions about the map. We'll send you information as well. But now we're actually coming to that stage that I love the best. It's collaborative conversations. All right, welcome back. So that was the last one. We don't have enough time for one more session. So we're in the room together. We can chat here, or if you need to go, you can take off. How did you make new connections? Yeah, I see head nods. That's awesome. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, Denise, thank you so much. It was just awesome. I really met the most wonderful people. This group is so dynamic and diverse and on fire, and it was just a pleasure. Thank you very, very much to the whole group.
Oh, I'm so glad you joined, Jennifer. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you so much.
It's so great
Yeah.
to hear that everybody else is thinking the same kind of way I'm thinking, whether it's on the physician side or the caregiver side.
You're
So
not
you'll definitely
alone.
see me back. Yes.
Oh, good, good.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. I see, Virgil, I see your hands up.
Yeah, next steps, Denise, or next things coming up?
Yeah, next thing's coming up. We have a number of events scheduled. And Virgil, I think I've seen you join. Oops, there you are. I think I've seen you join the HRC space. If you're not on the map yet, in the email I send out, you'll get that link. So get out to the map, explore it. And
Okay.
next steps is those events. And there will be other events coming out very soon that will be more of a collaborative, engaging opportunity. So I hope that you watch for those and join us. April,
you
did
very much.
you're welcome, Virgil. April,
Thank you so much, Denise.
You're welcome,
you so-
Rosanna. Good to see you here.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye, Javier.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good week.